Hey, what's up, Delicious Faithful? Bruce Moore here to tell you about this week's sponsor, In the Wild Podcast, where you will find true and gripping tales of survival, tragedy, and triumph from the depths of the wild. From stories of murder hornets, assassin caterpillars, highway snow disasters, or prop plane horror stories, these short, real-life stories are interesting, relatable, engaging, and display humankind's amazing ability to overcome increasingly insurmountable odds and survive the unsurvivable. If you're like me and you enjoy real-life stories of triumph over tragedy, I suggest you head on over to visit our friends at In the Wild Podcast. That's In the Wild Podcast. You can find them wherever you get your podcast content from. Trust me, you won't regret it.
My name is Ricardo Pereira. I'm the lead singer of Moonshade, and you're listening to the Brutally Delicious podcast. Oh, okay.
Cool, man. Thanks for joining me. I appreciate it.
Thanks, man. Thank you for having me. Great to be here.
My partner had to bail. He had something come up, so you just got me today.
That's okay. That's perfect. It's going to be a nice conversation. It's going to be interesting.
Yes, and I will tell you, I have been banging the new single, Everlasting Horizons, like 20 times prepping for this video, prepping for this interview. That song is a banger.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. It's the least bit single type song that we released so far. It's a bit more proggy, but I'm really glad to see people are enjoying it.
Has the response been pretty good?
Yeah. Sorry?
Has the response been pretty good to it?
I think so. Every response we had from these singles that we've been releasing has been quite surprising, actually, because, well, we're unsigned and we are an underground band. But
right.
Every single that we released, we managed to get like in Spotify official playlists. People have been sending us messages, pre-ordering the album. It's been quite the ride because we're doing everything by ourselves except PR, which where it's infecting sales right now with Keith Morach. But basically, and with booking, we have our friend Nick Grima, but everything else like merchandise and publicity, social media, whatever, it's just us by ourselves.
It's a lot of work, isn't it?
It is. I want to kill myself.
So I do the same sort of thing with the podcast. I mean, I'm not on a big network either. We have lots of viewers, but it's all just everything is done myself. It takes a lot out of you.
I feel it. It does, especially the social media fatigue.
Yes.
It's I don't pay any attention to my personal social media because I just can't.
Sometimes and there's so many of them, right? There's so many. Every time I turn around, there's another social media you got to try and learn. I can't keep up with them all.
Yeah, I kind of tried I tried TikTok for the band, and that's my limits. We just post like the videos similar to the ones that we post on Instagram, like for the reels. We don't usually, but we still haven't gotten into the vibe of TikTok, right? Because it's very particular, and we're not really sure if it's the right. General style of TikTok. If it's our thing, we're still exploring, trying to maybe find common ground. Are you guys? It's different.
Yes. Are you guys mixing and mastering yourself too?
Just recording. Our guitarist recorded us in his personal studio, except the voice, and then mixing and mastering was by Afonso Aguiar from Titan Forge Productions. He used to play in our band, and he's a producer. He also plays in an amazing band called Dark Oath, one of my personal favorites here in Portugal. And he did an amazing job mixing and mastering the album. But us, we just recorded everything and we edited everything so we can do what he does best in peace without having to do the boring part, which to us is fun.
What's the metal scene like in Portugal? I mean, obviously I know of Moonspell, but is it pretty good there?
I guess it's particular because it's a very small territory. It's a very small country. We don't have a lot of bands like breaking through. We have some, for example, We had Sinistro a while back that signed with Napalm, I think. And then we have Garia, which just signed with Season of Mist. But that's all very, very recent. For a long time, like in the mainstream, like really mainstream, it's just Moonspell. But it does have a very rich scene in terms of we have tons of bands, which are mostly underground, but tons and tons and tons of bands for the size of this country. Uh, we have two which I would consider major festivals in the area. We have Resurrection, which isn't in Portugal, but it's super close. It's in Spain, in Galicia. And then we have VOA here in Portugal that brings huge bands like Bring Me the Horizon and Slipknot and System of a Down and those types. And then we have a bunch of smaller festivals that bring from mostly mid-tier bands like the Ensiferums and the Watanes and the Demoborgir. I wouldn't consider mid-tier, but they are in Vagos Metal Fest, for example. It's different because it has a lot of an underground vibe, but it's still very much alive, and we have a ton of fans, and the big bands all pass through here. So it's very particular. We don't have the bands themselves are not exactly breaking through to the mainstream, especially at the Moonspell level.
Right.
But the scene is more alive than ever, and it really managed to survive COVID. A lot of places closed, sadly. The main issue here, having a band, is a place to play. Used to be a lot easier, but it is what it is. It's good enough that we still have some place to play in. This apart from festivals, I'm talking about just venues. If you want to organize a gig by yourself, but it's basically that. It's alive and it's fun, and we have great musicians, great bands.
Right, perfect. So as we set the skies ablaze, I guess is a month from now, right, from release, like a month from today, maybe.
Yes.
How excited are you?
Yeah, a month from tomorrow. I'm very, very excited. This was a lot of work, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and then some more blood. It was fun. It wasn't heavy. Recording our previous album was a bit heavy. Like in we were experimenting with a lot of things. It was the first album. We didn't know much. The people in the band were different. At least two people changed. Now it was a lot easier, a lot more organized, but still it was a lot of work, despite being fun. So we're really excited to be able to show this to everyone because it was basically the whole pandemic just working on this and just listening to the names of the albums and of the singles and the albums. As we said, the Skies Ablaze, taking care of everything, the artwork, the mixing, the mastering, just all of it, and to finally be able to show everyone something that's been basically 3 years in the making, 3 years of our lives. Like a lot changes in 3 years. It's just amazing, and we're kind of nervous. We're hoping that people will like it, at least as much as they like the singles. Let's see.
Yeah,
I hope so.
So are you guys planning on doing, I mean, obviously you're releasing the record, but are you planning on doing the whole new single model where you're releasing like a single every 6 weeks, or are you going to just stay with the record like the old school way?
We're going to do half, basically. We will release 5 singles, which are like basically the 5 tips of the pentagram. So 2 more singles coming up, with intervals of more or less like 6 weeks and 4 weeks. Actually, we have the next one, since Everlasting Horizons is already 3 weeks old, is coming out this Friday.
Oh, wow.
If I'm not mistaken. And then we have the last one with a music video, probably the best music video we've ever had, coupled with my favorite Moonshade song ever. And I think the band kind of like reflects this vibe. I think they really like the song a lot. It's at least a favorite of two more elements of the band. It's going to be like our magnum opus, just to show everyone our idea of what Moonshade is. And then just out comes the album. And then you get to listen to the whole thing. Basically, we released 5 out of 9 songs. So we have 4 more, which there are a lot of surprises in the songs that we left. We left a bit of the more experimental part on the side. The singles, the bangers, we chose to release are a bit more in your face, except with the exception of Everlasting Horizons, are a bit more catchy in your face, and the rest is just like the weird stuff. So let's see.
Awesome. When you're, is there something you want your fans to take away from after listening to a Moonshade record, or in particular, as we set the skies ablaze?
Well, that depends because all of our records are a bit different. We've been growing a lot and experimenting with different themes, with different ways to express certain moods. Fans that come up to me and talk about, for example, the last record, which is Sun Dethroned, it was a very conceptual record. It was basically a fantasy story. It was an allegory, but it was fantasy. So they come up to me and they take a lot from the story itself and the characters, the God of Nothingness and Lenore, and they ask us for like a sequel. And then everybody was, well, almost everybody that really got into the lyrical part of the album and the whole world that the album created asked for a sequel. And so we came up with As We Set the Skies Ablaze, which is exactly the opposite that they asked. But it wasn't on purpose. It's just what came out. But As We Set the Skies Ablaze is different because I think people are going to take something very different out of it because, first of all, it's very rooted in the real world. It's not fantasy at all. It has songs about global warming. It has songs, I'm going to spoil you a bit. It has songs about the possibility of a nuclear holocaust. It has songs about what it means to grow as a species and to go beyond. It has songs about philosophy, about the Homo Deus hypothesis. It's just it's something that's real, that's palpable, that you can feel. It's not just a fantasy story, and it's not vague at all. It has very specific concepts, which is completely different from everything we've done so far. We've been super allegoric and super like fantasy oriented, but now we just took a little bit of our, at least my punk rock past, and just injected it and started talking about actually real things. So I think it's gonna be a completely different reception.
What was the catalysts to make that change? Was it intentional or is it just happened?
It just happened. I'm very lucky to have people in my band that are very accepting of things, of evolving, of writing about different things, not doing the same thing over and over. They actually embrace it and they ask for it. And so when I came up with the themes one by one, we always decide everything together, and all instruments are analyzed and decomposed by everyone else in the band, and that goes for the voice and the lyrics. They embraced it completely. They said it was amazing. Our 2 newest members, since they study physics engineering, they were really receptive of the songs about science, about especially the ones that talk about like the nuclear holocaust, because we went deep into the Manhattan Project, J. Robert Oppenheimer, and all of that, and they were super hyped because of that, because it's what they liked, what they studied. So basically, it's that. I think the catalyst was just us being, well, I won't say relaxed because it was during the pandemic, but us being just like creatively active and receptive to each other, like really respecting everyone else's ideas, which is very rare in a band, and I'm very lucky for that. And they just let me take that bone and run with it, and they were happy with the results, and they really embraced it. Now it's a vibe. It's like, it's not just my lyrics, it's the band's vibe. It's It's everything. It interconnects everything.
So if you're writing about real topics and almost current events, because I mean there is a possibility of nuclear shit going down with Ukraine now, but
we weren't aware of that when we wrote the song. Actually,
but do you feel?
I was reading a lot of stuff about the subject. We recorded the song, and 3 months later, Putin starts talking about nuclear assault, I'm like, okay.
Right.
That I'm rarely right about things, and this is not the kind of thing that I like to be right about.
Right.
So,
But
yeah.
to my
It
point,
was
though,
pretty
do you feel a sense of responsibility when it's not fantasy anymore, when it's real? Do you feel like a sense of responsibility to your fans?
Yes, and it makes it way more fun because it makes it like well, to use layman's terms, it makes you feel like a big boy. Like you're actually writing stuff that might have some impact. So you have to take responsibility. You have to study. You have to defend your opinion because people are going to ask you about it, whether fans or whether in interviews. So it demands that you inform yourself better and to have. I know that in metal it's common that people say that we should be able to say whatever we want, and that's true. But my personal view about writing and about approaching certain subjects is that I really prefer having some responsibility as with regards to what I'm saying, especially live. Um, so that's that's the main point of it, and it's way more fun because you get more educated, you get more active, and the songs are more closely related to a certain point in time. It becomes like a timestamp of what was happening at that moment. And
Right.
even when you talk about grandiose subjects like global warming, which is not going away anytime soon, probably we're going away, but it's something that it really touches everyone deeply, and that's the other positive aspect of it. I get to feel a connection to everyone because these are not. I'm just not writing about myself or just some
Right.
story that I might made up. I'm talking about stuff that affects us all, and
Right.
this might be just my opinion, but it's something that connects us. Well, I have mine, he has his, you have yours, sure, but since it affects us all, I think it makes it more, I'm not going to say valid, but more grandiose.
Yeah.
More, you get to feel like that spirit of human connection that you usually feel in metal shows,
Yeah,
in
I
heavy
agree.
metal festivals. So that's it.
Do you shoot, I just lost my train of thought. Oh, I know what I was going to say. You mentioned time capsule, and I think it's a great analogy. And I was talking to some other people today on other interviews this morning. I think what we're seeing now is like almost an equivalent to what we saw like in the late 60s and 70s with the music being a political statement or a statement against the oppressions of and people's rights, all that stuff that came out of the 60s and the 70s. I think you're starting to see that now in music and in art and in literature. It's almost a reflection of it, right?
Yes, and I think that's just perfect. Like, I really resent people that say that music and metal. I saw this like in forums and comment threads all the time. Like, metal should stay out of politics. Like, dude, metal is literally by definition like the uh the archetype of subversive music.
Right.
So, like, you can't really make subversive music without like stepping on a few toes and giving your opinion and just shouting out what you really think. And I think that you can do metal about other things. Like, you can write about dragons, you can write about fantasy. I did it. I like doing it. I like reading it too. Not the point. The point is that metal can be whatever you want. And the political side of metal has been forgotten, like, in my opinion, in the ever since ever since bands like Rage Against the Machine stopped
Right.
being a thing, we kind of lost that beacon. And System of a Down, for example, they're incredibly political as well, especially about the Armenian genocide and everything. We kind of lost that, and I think it was a very beautiful part of metal, that it was punk in spirit.
Right.
And well, I like punk rock, so whoever likes punk rock, please don't hate me. I'm also a fan of punk rock. I think protest metal is cool because it has that punk vibe, but the music is a bit more engaging to me,
Right.
because it's a bit more progressive. It's not as basic. It's well, punk. I listen to punk rock as well, but I prefer metal because of that. It's I think metal, when it's well made and well performed, it's better at expressing certain feelings, especially anger,
Yeah.
than punk, because it's well, the guttural vocals are just the most aggressive form of singing there is, if you don't count, like, for example, pig squeals or something like that.
Right.
So that's the best part about political metal and protest metal. Like, and we've always had bands that did it, but I always felt like, at least in the last 10 to 15 years, it's been a bit touch and go. Bands didn't do it. A band like Testament released Native Blood, and another band released another song which was particularly like a protest song, but it wasn't like a thing. It wasn't a movement.
But I think you're seeing a lot of it now, though. I mean, you guys are on it, but I think, like, you know, Rob Flynn from Machine Head is really good at it. Sowen's been really good at it. There's a lot of really big metal bands that are starting to, or maybe they're just getting noticed, and I didn't know it offhand, but there's a lot of people stepping their foot into that arena and saying, hey, you know, wake up, this is what's going on.
Yeah. Yes, and I think that's amazing, and some bands really push that forward. I think one of the bands that was most seminal in bringing back the activist side of metal was Gojira, for example. They were incredibly important in showing that you can have a very big band, a very famous band, but you don't have like to dress up as monsters and sing about Satan or whatever. You can actually be political and
sing about the rainforest.
Yeah, I don't think that we weren't actually connected within the sense that we didn't realize that the scene cared about these things.
Right.
And we slowly started to realize that people actually do care. So that's amazing, because we care. So we started experimenting more. Other bands opened doors for it, and then newer bands, for example, I don't consider Gojira to be a new band. They're like at least 25 years old. I'm 30. Right. So, but for example, bands like Code Orange, bands you have a ton of bands like in the beatdown scene and in the core scene that bring that aspect also. And I think that the bigger bands doing it, yes, it's important, but the best part is to see like the whole bunch, like you said, a whole bunch of newer bands like really getting into it and seeing that it's honest, that they care. That's cool. Yep. That's really cool.
And especially since I think, even though they're, you know, political themes or whatever, they're not necessarily rooted in one culture. They're kind of things that we're all experiencing here in the US, in Portugal, in wherever, Sweden. They're kind of universal issues.
Yeah, that's the best part. And there are some bands that talk about specific cultural issues as well, which are equally interesting, for example, and they use very specific cultural iconography now. That's another very fun part of more recent metal. For example, Alien Weaponry. We get to see like Maori metal, which I saw that the first time and I'm like, this is amazing. Why is this the first time I'm hearing about it? Yeah. And then people like actually bringing their indigenous cultures. Here in Europe, we already did that for many years with folk metal and like bands like Ensiferum and bands like Elvite and just Corpiclani, just everything, like the whole roll of bands. But then you get to see like different cultures. You get to see like Mesoamerican metal, themed metal. You get to see like even bands. It's not exactly a metal band, but for example, the Who, which are very connected to the metal scene, that do like Mongolian folk / rock. They even have a song with the Jacob Ishedix from Papa Roach. It's like all of this to me is just amazing to see this bloom, both in the political side of aspect of metal, but also in the cultural side, that you get to see so many different cultures beside the European and American, which were the leaders in metal for at least 30 years.
Yeah, and I think what you're mentioning there is even more interesting, because the metal scene, or at least metalheads, are very welcoming and open armed to all these cultures. There's no I'm not going to say, hey, I'm not listening to that because they're from, I don't know, New Mexico, or there's a welcoming culture across the board in the metal world. I think there's more of an open mind and a free spirit sort of thing, if that makes sense.
I think so. I agree. There's also something that's always confused me. Like, you have some metalheads which are a bit conservative. That's always been super alien to me. To a conservative metalhead, it's like fucking for virginity. That's super weird. You know? It's like, why would you listen to the most subversive music ever made and then just be a bootlicker?
Right.
But overall, I think metalheads are accepting, and you can see how they accept like these novelty acts that are deeply rooted in different cultural influences. I think that was a very beautiful sight to see, and I think that the whole new generation of metalheads, without no disrespect to the older generation, but I think the newer generation has a lot more of female, like women,
absolutely,
women's presence, which is amazing. POC, just like people with different genders, backgrounds, cultural identities, and that really enriched the scene. It stopped having so many cliches. It was always the same. People looked the same. They sung the same. About
and nobody
the same
cares
things.
if you're even your sexual identity. I mean, like the godfather of our genre is openly gay, and nobody cares at all, right? Halford can sing like anybody's business, and nobody gives a shit. It's just part of. That's why I said I think it's really nice to be part of this all-encompassing community, if that makes sense.
And that's beautiful, because that's what music should do. Like, even aggressive music, it's supposed to like be an event where people get together and just be happy together and enjoy the music.
And I don't give a fuck if you're black, white, Chinese, gay, whatever you are. I don't give a fuck at all. I knock you over in the pit, I'm reaching down to pick you up, and we're gonna go about it again.
Well, we got to pick them up, because that's the rule. Yeah. The unwritten rules of the mosh pits cannot be breached in any circumstance whatsoever. They're more important than your country's laws.
Right. I think that's an amazing thing that we're part of.
Yeah, it's an amazing community. It's great to see it evolve. It's great to see that it's been here for so many years. Metal is so, like, it's a genre that's, well, you got to give it credit, because it's so it's not a very accessible genre of music to listen to for most people.
Right.
But it's been here for 50 years, and it's still going strong. We have huge festivals, we have huge bands, like we not Ed Sheeran level, but we have bands like with 10 million listeners on Spotify. Yeah. Bands like Slipknot, Bring Me the Horizon, and whatever, and Gojira, and just a shit ton of smaller bands and rich underground scenes in countries that you wouldn't expect it to be. And there are like countries like even Azerbaijan. I've heard great bands from Azerbaijan lately, like even Africa, Latin America, just. It's beautiful. It's a worldwide phenomenon that it doesn't stop, and I hope it doesn't stop, because like it's super fun. It's so absolutely fun. I don't get it, like when some metalheads like take this so seriously, like especially like the most gatekeeping type of metalheads that are so serious about this, and are so like metal should be like this, and metal should be this, and you're not part of the scene, and name 3 bands, and the name of the lead singer's cat, like this. Just joy.
Right. Chill out.
This is beautiful. Just chill out. Zen. Listen to the anger. Like you're paying him to be angry on stage, so you don't have to be.
Right. You're right. That's beautiful. So anyway, let's tie this back into Moonshade, because we're running out of time. What's next for you guys?
Well, we have a few shows coming up. We have Laurus Nobilis, which is a large festival in our country. We're playing the same day as Orphanland and At the Gates, so that's going to be amazing.
Yeah,
one of our favorite bands. And we also have like another festival here in Portugal in August. Then we're going to start seeing the possibility of doing some international dates. Meanwhile, the album is going to be released, and we still have a lot more content for everyone. We have music videos, we have behind the scenes, we have just everything. A bunch of cool stuff even after the album comes out. And we're gonna see if we can just do a little visits to certain countries just to see how everyone is receiving the new album.
Right.
And yeah, that's it. We're just gonna promote the hell of it. We're gonna promote the hell out of it. We're gonna play as much as we can and start thinking of our next release because, well, this album it was very much written. Well, 70% of it was written when our new members joined.
Right.
So we want to give them an opportunity as fast as possible. Like our drummer, the drums were already made when he entered, so he made the orchestrations. Our guitarists, the songs were basically written, so we mostly contributed to solos and some riffs. So we want to write with them like from the start, from scratch, because they're amazing musicians. They both have another band called Phase Transition. It's a progressive metal band. And we really want the experience of doing something from scratch with them and seeing how people react to it.
Nice.
So we're going to start thinking about our next release as well, while promoting the hell out of, as we said, Skies Ablaze.
Perfect. And if fans want to find you, Moonshade everywhere?
Everywhere. It's Spotify. We're on YouTube. We're on all social media, Instagram, Facebook, even TikTok, apparently. And the streaming services, all of them, everything you can imagine. And, well, that's it. And we have an official website. You can visit us on moonshadeofficial.com. And we update it regularly with things that you might want to read if you're interested in the band. We also have a blog on that website called the Oblivion Pages, where we put some like exclusive content, talking about lyrics, talking about the experience of recording, just a bit of everything. So just knock yourself out.
Awesome. Thank you, my friend. I hope that wasn't too bad. I know we meandered quite a bit, but I just like to chat. So
no, I love meandering, man. It was amazing. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. Good luck with the record. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks,
You
man.
well.
Good luck
Bye.
with the podcast.
Thanks.
I'll be listening.
All right, great.
Bye.
Later.